This week I thought I would try out this thing here, this black, and it's a kind of reddish orange, tangerine I suppose. I mean, I think of it as red, but apparently it is orange. Drum machine called the Boss DR-202 Dr.Groove. And yes, it's exactly the same colour scheme, Grazy, as an Auric Atmos. It's a little bit more modern though. It comes from 1998, and I remember reading about it as many of my bits of gear in Future Music magazine. It has about 250 sounds, believe it or not. 200 of them are drum sounds, and there's 50 different bass sounds as well. I'll go through some of them in a moment. The drum sounds, I think, actually sound really good. And you can mess about with them with this these real-time controls. It's got a flanger and a reverb delay unit, which is quite handy. It's got MIDI in and out. And it's not only a drum machine, actually. You can sequence, as I say, your bass, and you can sequence external MIDI. It has one channel of external MIDI and one channel of bass. But you can use the bass channel as an external MIDI channel, which gives you two external MIDI channels if you want. And those channels are polyphonic, so you can play chords on those. The other weird feature that this has is that it doesn't have normal jack sockets for the audio, because normally when you get some gear it's got these 1/4 inch mono jack outputs, but this thing was aimed at the DJ market, so it has RCA phono pre-out, this type of output, if you can see that, which is a little bit annoying because it's different to everything else, but you know, it's simple enough to adapt. It has a whole bunch of preset styles and they all sound really good. Now, I'm not a big one for preset styles and effects, but it does give you an idea of kind of what the machine is able to do. Here's one of them. It's a hip hop beat. And there's a whole bunch of drum and bass styles as well. That one sounded a little bit Sega, the bass used on that. It's all got techno and house, obviously. And obviously it's got a bossa nova setting as well. Let's try a rock pattern. Like a sort of funk rock, that thing. Very groovy. We'll start with bass sounds. As I said, there's about 50 bass sounds. You can play them here on these 1-octave keyboard. But you can also just as easily play them on an external MIDI keyboard. That is a very general MIDI sounding finger bass. Let's get onto some of the more interesting ones. Pick bass, which does sound better. Slap bass, obviously. But then you start to get into, like, we've got wood bass, you know, all of these. And then you start to get into the synth bass. So it has like a more synthy sounds in it, which are far more interesting. It does have a 303 bass. It has several 303 bass presets. This is meant to be distorted 303, and you can mess around with the but it still sounds quite sort of Rompler-ish. It's not quite a real filter, you can really tell that. But I think it still sounds quite nice. Various fake 303 basses. That's quite nice. And then it's got some FM basses, so it's got a solid bass from Yamaha. And now that sounds really legit, I think. And again, you can mess with the fake filter and get different kind of sounds out of it. Like house bass, that one's called. Techno bass. Nice and growly. Sine bass. That'll be nice for doing some jungle. This is an organ bass for a different organ bass with the fifth, which would be very usable for doing some rave. 101 style basses. One's quite usable. Moogish bass. As you can hear, they're all a bit hit and miss, but some of them are really good. I don't know what you'd use that for, but it might make quite a cool effect. Drum kits now. This thing has over 200 sounds, so I'm not going to play you every single drum, but I will play you some of them. Let's say 808 kick. You can adjust the delay. It's got all the kind of classic Roland favourites that you'd expect. Different kinds of 808 kick, not the classic 909 kick, which sounds really good. It's a distorted 606 kick. It's got 707 kick. There's snares. Let's go like a hip hop snare. It's got a few CR78 sounds. It's a CR78 snare. Clap, 909 clap. It's got a nice Simmons toms, which I really love. CR78 closed hi-hat, really nice. 808 cowbell, congas, bunch of Latin sounds. Few vocal hits. That vinyl noise there, scratches. I mean, got a few high key zaps, some of my favourite sounds, reverse cymbal. And there you go. All the drum sounds are wicked, I think. The bass sounds, some are good, some are not really very good. You can change the level of the sound. Mess with the decay. pitch it up and down. Change the panning. Adjust the amount of reverb and delay. Adjust the amount of flanger. You can change the cutoff, resonance, and decay. These knobs here, you can do a setting, a permanent setting. The other thing that this machine has is it's got this low control, which is a bass boost and cut. Now, I'm not normally a fan of these because they can sound a bit naff, but the design of this low control is really nice. So that's a kick drum. And it definitely toughens up the low end and it cuts it in a really nice way as well. It's definitely nice and DJ orientated, that very 1990s kill EQ type of thing. I normally leave it flat in the middle or just a little hair up just to fatten it up a bit. That's where I'll put it today. I made a kit of some of my favorite sounds, and let's go through them. You can have 13 sounds in a kit taken from any of those 200 sounds that I talked about. Let's go through what I've got on this one. 909 kick, snare, closed and open hi-hat. You'll hear that everything except for the kick has a lot of reverb on. I can turn the reverb down here. You just hear the raw sound. 909 snare, 808 closed and open hi-hat. 707 ride. I had to have a Roland 707 sound somewhere in the kit because I love the sound of that drum machine so much. A 909 crash. 808 cowbell, obviously. And high Q zap, another one of my favourites. Then, of course, here I've got the Simmons toms. Nicely panning from left to right. And then the last two pads are a big fat 909 clap. And the last sound's just a rim shot. Well, just, you know. The Dr.202 has really amazing mute features, and you can literally play live just with this. You can turn on and off any sound. So I promised you I was going to make a track. Clearly, as you see here, I've got a couple of other instruments to put into the mix. The Reface DX is a FM synth. I've programmed in a kind of a supersaw patch. Trancey type of sound. Something like that. And we've also got here the Volca NuBass, which is a acid synth, really. I will sequence the Reface DX from the Dr.Groove. This is synced to it, but it's not sequenced by it. I'll choose the kit that I showed you. And I'm going to make it 4 bars long. And I'm going to take life into my own hands and record it in real time. One of the cool things about this is you can actually change the amount of quantization whilst you're recording. So I'll change it to 16ths now. Now I don't like what I've done there with the clap, so I can delete it. Just by pressing delete and the button. And so on, you can keep adding sounds. There's a few different reverb algorithms that it has. So in your drum kit, you can change the effects. So this preset's large hall, but you've got lounge and club and studio and other stuff. But I like large hall. Crazy Q does say though that I should try shorter decay on the clap. Let's try changing the clap sound a bit. So I can reduce the amount of reverb is on the clap. That is nicer, you're right, Dirty 1200. And it's very easy to change that as well. One thing that's missing from the pattern is some closed hi-hats. Now I hate doing those closed hi-hats in real time because my timing's not really good enough. But you can also edit this in a sort of step time. So when you go into record, if you press it again, it says here step record. And then you can go in and manually scroll through your event list and add hits. Is there a swing on the Dr.202? Yeah, there is a swing actually. There's this option called Groove, but I don't think it goes. I don't think it works very well. I'll just show you. You can kind of apply these templates. But I kind of think they sound weird. So I generally leave them off, but you can do triplets, and that works well. So what I'm going to do is copy this pattern so I've got a backup, because it's very easy to mess things up when you're recording in real time. So I'm about to add a bit of supersaw over those drums. I mean, I worked out a riff earlier, but now I'm sort of thinking it's a bit cheesy. All right, let's go with the cheese. So we're going to record that in. Now, as I explained at the start of the stream, you can sequence drums. It is a drum machine. But you can also sequence an external MIDI track, which is fully polyphonic, so you can sequence chords. And you can also sequence a bass part, and you can use internal bass sounds, or you can use that bass part and sequence a second external MIDI, which is also fully polyphonic as well. So basically it's a drum machine with two polyphonic sequencer channels, which is brilliant, and the drums sound wicked as well. And this real-time control with the mutes works out too. So I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to slow down the tempo so I can record it a bit easier. Even if I say so myself, absolutely nailed that. Normally I spend ages with the real time, playing things in real time. I don't normally like it. I'm kind of a tracker, kind of step tom kind of guy, but that worked out quite well, probably because I was practiced a little bit earlier. So now we need a bass, and I can program it with this keyboard as well. So the supersaw is on MIDI channel 3, but MIDI channel 2 is the internal bass of the boss. You can change the channels, it's fully configurable. And I've got it set to the nice solid bass preset. And I'm going to just program a simple offbeat bass. Because that worked so well, I'm going to copy it. Deleting things is a bit annoying on the Boss 202. It's easy enough with drums. You press delete and hold down the drum you want to delete. But when you want to delete the musical notes, you can only delete, like let's say you wanted to delete every single C. Well, you can press delete and press C, but probably you want to just delete the whole thing, and that is unfortunately not possible. Also not possible, but let's say you start with a 1-bar pattern and you want to extend it. You can't copy it on top of itself to extend it in that way. It will just give you blank bars, which is super annoying. So you're better going in straight for the 4-bar. You can also record an 8-bar pattern if you want. And I'll record an offbeat bass now. I'm going to change the quantization to 8th notes because that'll make it a bit easier. So yeah, played that in time as well. So clearly I'm on fire tonight. Speed up the tempo again. We'll go for 130 BPM. Let's hear how everything sounds at full speed. I'd like to add a bit more reverb on the Reface, which is pretty simple with the controls here. Just increase the depth a bit. That's quite nice. You can already use the mutes and start doing a jam. How long did that take? About half an hour, and you kind of already got a pattern that you can jam with. And this, as I say, this mute mode is absolutely excellent. Dirty 1200 asks if there's a compressor on the 202, and actually there is not. But I do have an external compressor. I've got my good old Alesis NanoCompressor. It actually sounds good without a compressor as well, Dirty 1200. Let me play the same pattern and I'll turn the compressor on and off. That's with the compressor and this is without it. So we want some acid. I've got here the Volca NuBass, which is all about acid. very quick and easy, the Boss Dr.Groove. The combination of the really nice drum sounds with those two polyphonic sequencer tracks, you can bang out an idea very quickly. And with this mute feature, you can start jamming. You can also do live pattern switching as well, if that's what you're into. You can really use this, if you want, as the centerpiece of your live set, and maybe with a couple of other little pieces, you can get a really good sound. Yeah, it is punchy. They did a nice job with it. A lot of kind of romplers from the late 90s, this is from 1998, they don't sound that punchy, but this does sound like a legit drum machine, except for some of those bass presets. Every sound on it's a winner.